So it's great to catch back up with you with
Thank
this
you.
new
Yeah.
project. So thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
So before we get into Humanoid, I want to know, you're in this rock and roll world with St. Vincent. You have these different Venn diagrams that come together. How does it feel to get into a studio and make a jazz album? What is that visceral feeling for you?
Well, I will say that the Humanoid is not a studio album, if that's what you're referring to.
Well, I
But
guess
if you're
it's
just generally,
generally, yeah, just generally the
okay,
idea of having kind of different genres and slipping in the different realms. How does that feel?
it feels amazing. So, um, there's something about me. People ask me this question a lot, like, how do I jump from genre to genre and like do all these different things? And to me, it's all like kind of one and the same. It's just like music and things that I've been influenced and heard my entire life. And you know, we're in an era where like all kinds of music is accessible. I think, if you talk about musicians from the 50s or something, they're pulling from the records that they've heard from jazz before that, but we're 100 years in.
Yeah.
And so there's rock and roll, there's funk, there's jazz, there's everything classical. And so, I mean, that said, like, I mean, I'm not that young, but I think even younger generations have even a wider spectrum to pull from. But just, basically when I'm in the studio or on stage or just performing, playing, it's all coming from the same place.
Yeah.
I just happen to be interested in a lot of different kinds of music, and that probably is also because I play keyboards. And so in playing keyboards, something like a clavinet, it's like, okay, well, I'll go check out, famous clavinet players or pieces or music, and it's usually in the funk era that you hear that. So, you know, stuff like that comes from playing all these different kinds of boards, or like something that has a sequencer. So I'll be into like, more electronic sounding stuff. And it's just it's just exploration.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I dig it. No, I love that answer. It just kind of, it all comes together. It makes sense. I mean, it's kind of like asking somebody that's been around music their whole life, how did you get into it? When it's a part of who you are and what you do, it just exudes from your DNA.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally in my DNA. I come from a musical family.
Yeah.
Obviously, you interviewed Mike, and he
Yeah.
probably told you all the same stuff. But
Yeah. Well, and the thing too is obviously the very clear clarification is this was recorded over 2 nights at Sam First. And I actually got to see that studio and interview those guys a little while back. And it's right next to the airport. And they
yeah,
just really built up this fantastic view of it. What was it like to record and perform this album in there?
um, excuse me. It was awesome. The First of all, I've played there a few times already, just as the jazz club, which I think they are always streaming their shows.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of always this multi recording media kind of thing happening there.
Yeah.
Um, so I've played there a few times, and it's always been like a really cool. It's a smaller venue, but it's a good vibe in there. Like everybody's really there to see music, and even the people that come off the plane or whatever, and they see that there's a jazz club and they just want to go have a drink. They end up really enjoying themselves at that club. Um, so there's that, and then the piano is amazing,
Yeah.
really nice piano. So it's fun to play on, and uh, and doing a live recording. The fact that it was 2 nights of recording took the pressure off a little bit,
Yeah.
because we're making a record, but obviously we can't use every take, and put it on a CD or a vinyl. So in fact, the vinyl only has 4 tracks on it,
Yeah.
which is crazy, but they're long tracks, so,
Yeah.
and quality vinyl, so it's a little thicker. But yeah, it's just like it was awesome to perform and vibe with the band and just have fun.
Yeah.
It's like less pressure than an actual studio.
Yeah. Well, you know, the one thing too that's interesting is that we had this void of no live music for so long. And I'm noticing there's a lot of live albums that are coming out. Was that a part of the architecture of getting this together and bringing it out right now? Or was it just, this was just what you were going to do anyway?
It was actually Dave Robert's call. You know, he put this label together over there at Sam First and with Paul, I think his last name is Solomon. I don't want to get that wrong. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Paul Solomon, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And so they put the label together and I think they reached out to like 5, 6 artists at the beginning to do these live albums to get it started. And I think they're doing, I don't know how many they're doing, but anyway, he just reached out and I was like, that's a great idea. Let's do it. I've never done a live album. So,
So what are you hoping the listener gets from this album?
well, I have made a bunch of albums where I'm singing, I'm playing keyboards, I'm like not really doing jazz. And it's kind of my, you know, I'm not going to say like stepping back into jazz because I never left, but I just haven't recorded a very straight ahead jazz album. So, and I started as a pianist and I started as a jazz musician. You know, when I was about 15, I really got into it. And I, you know, went through school and did all the things. And I went to New York and I played with a lot of people. And people tend to not know me as a pianist
Right.
just because I've just done a lot of other things that are more in the public eye, I guess. So this is like me stepping back in the light as a pianist.
Isn't that interesting how life works though? It's like somehow the circle comes all the way back around one way or another. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
we always come back to our roots, no matter what we
Yeah,
do, you know.
yeah.
How long was the St. Vincent tour?
Well, it started in 2020 for the Daddy's Home cycle
Yeah,
when she put that record out. I guess it came out in 2020,
I
and
think so.
she put the band together, and our first gig was Saturday Night Live, so that was awesome. But so it lasted until last month. We did our
Yeah.
final gig last month, opening for the Chili Peppers in
Wow.
Pennsylvania. So yeah, and I know she's coming out with another album. I don't know when, and I'm hoping to be on the next cycle of that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the thing that blew me away. I saw your Instagram post and I'm like, my God, that's a long tour. Like, that's just a huge tour. How do you recalibrate your mind from living on the road and seeing all of these magnificent places in the world and being around people like the Chili Peppers and all these other bands and Faulkner and all and St. Vincent? I mean, that has to be just an absolute adrenaline rush continually.
Well, yes. I mean, it's great to be around great people, you know, and I guess people that aren't so well known are also great people. So I just
Yeah.
enjoy being around great people and people that make me laugh and we have fun. But I don't know, recalibrating. I just came off a month-long tour, which started with the St. Vincent gig, and then I went to Europe for 3 weeks. And uh, I tried to keep up with regular life
Yeah, right.
while I was out there, but now I'm home, kind of just like scrambling. I'm teaching at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
Okay.
So I'm in Las Vegas and you know, catching up on my classes and you know, kind of trying to see what's next. You know, when you're on the road, it's easy to just get in this like day to day, like you know, you're not thinking about what the rest of your life is doing. You're just kind of like, I'm here to do the gig. You know, somebody's gonna make my bed in this hotel today, and I go eat some lunch. You know, it's like it's a nice way to live, but it's also like uh, I don't know. It's reality for some people, but it's like not reality in a way. But
Well, it's the reason why VH1 had Behind the Music so successfully done in the 90s. That was the whole thing. It always centered around a lot of these bands being on the road and everything unfolding from there,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So let me ask you a very jazz-centric question. You know, the one thing over the pandemic was that there was a lot of people that were leaving big cities. They were, you know, people in school weren't sure that they were going to pursue a career in jazz. It seems like it's stronger than ever now. Seems like everything is kind of the tidal wave is kind of back up and cresting. What are you noticing about the community?
Wow. I mean, I hope that's true. I do know, like, when I was living in LA and the pandemic started, a lot of people split, including myself. We went to Tucson for a little while. Um, I have a story about that, but and I know I heard stories about a few people like leaving music and going and getting like a tech job because they could make money, which was smart. I mean, because it's like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
You have to survive. Um, and hopefully those people get to come back to music if they want to or whatever. Um, but I mean, what I was going to say about Tucson is a friend of mine, well, he became my friend in Tucson, Arthur Vince. He opened up a jazz club during the pandemic called the Century Room.
yeah,
And at first it was kind of like, oh, wow, this is a big challenge to like get, what are they going to do? There's like pandemic, they're getting like, you know, not many people are going to come in and play in the city. And now it's just like, it's popping off. It's like he's got everybody in there. He used to work at the Vanguard in New York, so he's got all these connections to bring musicians out, and they're killing it down there.
yeah,
And Tucson is not necessarily, known as a jazz city, so
sure. Yeah.
yeah. So I think people are really really trying to keep it going.
I think so. You know, there was a musician in Kansas City. He's a very eclectic mix of talent. His name is Lonnie McFadden. He's a trumpeter, tap dancer, singer, and he got his own club. He got it. It's called the Reno Club, and it's named after one of the first famous clubs that Count Basie used to play in Kansas City. So he got this in 2020, and I remember interviewing him. I'm like, how is this going to happen? And it just did. Just they made it happen. Like with everything else,
Yeah.
they had the mask rule. People came in. It was kind of an intimate gathering, and it just all worked out. And I think there was a lot of people like that that had the gumption was much more than the reality that we were living through. And they made it. And now you're talking
Yeah.
about how good they're doing. And I know Lonnie right now is has to be thriving, you know, that everybody's out
Yeah.
and back at it.
Well, it's crazy because unfortunately, like a few nice clubs closed down because of the pandemic. So I don't know. I mean, it's weird how that works, but
Yeah.
it's good that people are still pushing forward and trying to make more venues happen. And
Yeah. I heard that LA specifically during the pandemic was a level of lockdown that was insane. Like beaches were closed. I've heard
yeah,
stories that it was pretty intense.
yeah. I think I was there for about 6 months and then we left.
Yeah.
And I definitely heard stories because my sister lives there and a bunch of friends. So yeah, beaches were closed. Like it was almost like, you would get in trouble for going to the grocery store if you didn't really have to, stuff like that. So it was,
Yeah.
yeah, it was probably that way in a lot of places, but I think it was intense.
It was there was a lot of Orwellian things going on there in the beginning. Like I heard stories about how neighbors were looking at, especially in New York, where they were looking at each other saying, "You're not supposed to be out without a mask at this time of day." And it's like, wow, to think that society would get to that point.
Yeah, well, I guess when you like factor in the unknown, like at first it was like nobody really knew what was going on. Like how does this spread and everything. I remember being in my neighborhood, like taking a walk and Tim LaFave, he was with me and he petted a neighbor's dog and I was just like, should
Right.
we be touching
Uh-huh.
dogs? Like
Uh-huh.
nobody knew what was happening. So I
Yeah.
can understand that people would get like freaked out.
Yeah. Yeah. It was all very surreal. Um, so the one thing I did notice over that pandemic time is that of all of the artists that are out there, jazz musicians were probably the best well built for it. You're always thrown into the unknown. You got to make the best out of it, and it's going to happen once. And it's like, I wish people would understand that more, because that's truly the way the jazz musicians were walking metaphors for what was going on at the time.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I know in my career, and this is probably most musicians, but it's like, you're here, you're here, you're here, like financially and maybe emotionally or whatever. So you're just used to like riding a roller coaster. So it's just another part of it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you doing as far as like live dates, anything to promote this album, anything jazz wise, what's going on, or even otherwise?
Yeah. So we're doing release show on the 3rd and 4th of November at Sam First.
Right on.
So
Cool.
with the same band, and then I've got a couple other little things happening in LA that I could mention. I have a nonette that's going to play at the Baked Potato on December 6th, and I have a trio gig with Billy Moeller, who's in the Humanoid band, and Jonathan Pinson, the great drummer. So we're doing a gig at the club called ETA in LA.
Okay.
And then there's some 2024 humanoid stuff. Do you want me to
Yeah, if you want, absolutely. I
mention
mean,
it?
yeah, if
I
we could
mean,
be
it's
privy, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So February 16th at Century Room, same band, and February 17th at the Ravenscroft Hall in Scottsdale, Arizona. So Century Room is in Tucson. So then we go up to Phoenix or Scottsdale, and then I'll do a month-ish long tour in Europe with Tina Raymond, the drummer that's on that
Yeah.
record, and
Yeah.
Emma Dayhuff, a bass player.
Yeah.
So we're doing a Europe tour.
Cool. So what is it like to be around a nonette? When you really up the ante and get a lot of people, sometimes people really look forward to that, have to kind of reshift things. How does that work for you?
For the Nonette, well, it's something that I started a long time ago when I went to school in Las Vegas, which is full circle. Here I am,
Yep.
25 years later, and it's I've kind of had a hiatus with it, so I'm relaunching it in December. But I've had a few readings here in town, and I love the big sound that you get with six horns, but it's not a big band, so there's a little more freedom actually than like a traditional big band or large ensemble because it's improvisatory and there's like since there's less people, there's just less to have to balance, I
Yeah.
guess. But I don't know, I love it. I love writing for large ensembles, so yeah.
Right on. So I gotta ask you, being on a big tour and seeing so many different cities is something that most people don't get the chance to do. What was one of the most surprising places that you visited that you just didn't expect? You were just like, wow, I didn't expect this. It was magical, or there was just something that was special. And it's not cherry picking
Um,
a city and kind of competing. I just something that was special.
well, I just did a recording 2 weeks ago in Athens.
Yeah.
Have you been there?
No.
So I've never been to Greece, but just flying in, it was like flying to heaven. It was like so beautiful. The water looks so different and the skies are beautiful. And then the city of Athens is like wild. It's kind of crazy. Like um, I stayed in just a neighborhood. It wasn't even really in the touristy area. Um, and the sidewalks are just like it's a mess, but it's also like quite beautiful and the people are really nice and it's like the food is amazing and it's really chill,
Yeah.
which that surprised me actually because you think Athens is like this old city and it's
Uh-huh.
there's a lot of people and it's whatever, it's Greece, I don't know. But they're super chilled out there and it was a great time.
The closest I ever probably got to anything like that was Rome. Rome to this day, and I don't know if it's my Italian blood in me, was just an absolute magnet to me. There was something, it was majestic at night. It felt different by day. It's this
Hmm.
cradle of civilization. I remember a cell phone going off in the Colosseum and I was like, wow, that's a clashing of just time
Yeah.
frames, you know what I'm saying? But just the feeling and just the way you the thing about being in old antiquitous places like that is you realize how young America is. Like when you're
Hmm.
over there, it is like centuries that you're dealing with. And then you come
Yeah.
here and it's a couple hundred years. It's like we're new kids.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, I did a little walk through a trail that was like near where Socrates hung out. It's just like, what?
What? That's
But I know, exactly. I
but
was like,
that's cool.
okay, yeah.
Yeah. But that's one of the beauties of not only having the thrill of making music, but you get to see the world. And when you get the chance to do that, how does that enhance your music brain? The way that you write and approach notes, does it change?
Um, I don't know. I think it all coincides together, just like the timeline of my life, as I go, I feel like I get better.
Hmm.
I experience more musicians and more music and I hear more things and I think it's just growth. I
Yeah.
think it's just a lifetime of growth. Um, but that said, I don't think it would happen if I just stayed in one city for my
Yeah.
entire life. It might not be the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Rachel, if anyone wants to learn about shows, get tickets, pick up the new album, whether on vinyl or otherwise, where's the best place to go?
Okay, so to find out about me, racheleckroth.com. The Humanoid album is available on samfirstrecords.com. So samfirstrecords.com. And then, there's also my older album called The Garden, which if you don't have it, get it because it's lovely.
Yes, I agree.
It's not just me, it's a lot of people. But
Yes.
um but that's available like streaming right now. I think the physical copies that it's not available right now. So, but yeah, um, just online.
Cool.
I'm everywhere.
Okay, excellent. Rachel, it's so
So,
good to see you. It's great to catch
thank,
up. Best of luck with everything. I appreciate it.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.